What's going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle coming to you with Week 12 quarterback rankings. Just as a reminder, before we jump into the rankings here, don't forget, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is Saturday, make sure that you join us for the Fantasy Headliners Live. We're going to be taking all of your start and sit questions, letting it flow, having a good time, talking about life. Make sure you set aside a little bit of time in your calendar to join us and have a good time. Now let's jump into it without further ado. Our rankings for Week 12. And coming up first is Lamar Jackson, maybe the best player in the league right now. I said it. I know Russell Wilson's having a good year, but Lamar Jackson is having a fantastic season as well. We won't say the best. He's up there. The most dynamic. Can we say the most dynamic player in football right now? We'll see. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Is Lamar Jackson one of the best players, or is he just one of the most dynamic players? This will be interesting. Still getting a little bit of hate, Lamar Jackson is this season, even though he's putting up a good season. But moving forward, Matt Ryan at number 2, one of the best players, one of the safest players on this slate, I believe. Matt Ryan facing the Tampa Bay defense, giving up the second most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Can't say much about Jameis Winston, though. We'll talk about him in a minute at 15. Russell Wilson coming in at number 3, another MVP type year from that guy. Drew Brees coming in at number 4. Since he's come back from his injury, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, playing very, very good football right now. We're going to roll 100% with him this week. Baker Mayfield at number 5. Now this might catch some of you off guard. This is the highest Baker Mayfield has been for me since the beginning of the season. But over the last few games, he's 70 for 112, 704 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions last 3 games. Miami is giving up the 5th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And when I get to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm going to explain a little bit more about why I've got Baker Mayfield this high. But we're going to wait till we get to Fitzpatrick because it has to do with him. Dak Prescott coming in at number 6. I will say I don't love the matchup for Dak Prescott, but I am still playing him no matter what if I have him. New England, yes, the one time that they have played a top-tier offense, and by top-tier, I mean Baltimore, they got ran around on a little bit. Jackson had a very good game, threw the ball a little bit, ran a little bit. We're going to keep Dak Prescott up here because what he's done so far this season, we're going to roll with him to be good again, even in New England on Sunday night. Josh Allen at number 7. Again, another quarterback with high upside, but a tough matchup. However, he has been very, very good lately. Since the bye, he is the quarterback too, so we're going to keep rolling with him. He also does not have an interception in his last 5 games. Tom Brady at number 8, going up against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to have him number 8 inside the top 10 there. Derek Carr at number 9. Like Derek Carr a lot this week. I know that a lot of people haven't loved Derek Carr this season because he hasn't done a whole lot. Yes, he doesn't carry some of the upside as other quarterbacks, but he always carries a pretty safe floor. The Jets allowing 18 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And right behind him, his opponent this week, Sam Darnold at number 10. He is also a start for me this week. Oakland is allowing 20-plus fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. We're going to forget what Rivers did against Oakland. Okay, that was bad, and Rivers has not been good this season, and I know Darnold has not been as well. However, there has been 2 times this season where the Oakland Raiders have allowed 400-plus passing yards to an opposing quarterback. And I will say this, it seems like Oakland's defense plays a little bit better at home than they do on the road. So we're going to take Sam Darnold inside the top 10 this week. Aaron Rodgers coming in at number 11. And just to clarify something, so Aaron Rodgers this week on the show for me was a sit. Guys like Nick Foles, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Jeff Driscoll were a start. However, they are listed behind him. And let me tell you why real quick. So with my rankings, I do take a lot of things into consideration. If I owned Aaron Rodgers, I would think about sitting him this week. Our cutoff for starting quarterbacks is 18 fantasy points per game. Aaron Rodgers will always have a decent floor, okay? He doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions. However, he's been sporadic this year in terms of his play and his upside. That's why I have him a little bit higher than some of these other guys because, yes, I do believe that he has a little bit more of a floor, a nice floor. However, that ceiling is really missing. From weeks 1 to 6, Aaron Rodgers was the QB 14. From weeks 7 and 8, he was the quarterback 1. Remember, he had a game where he had 5 passing touchdowns. And then in weeks 9 and 10, he's the quarterback 22. So he's been really up and down, really inconsistent this year in terms of his output. And with outside of being like the QB1 for 2 weeks, he hasn't been that good of a quarterback. He gets the San Francisco defense this year. So again, I don't love his upside this week. The upside of Nick Foles, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Jeff Driscoll, yes, Driscoll, who would have thought we were saying that, are more than Aaron Rodgers. But I have Aaron Rodgers ahead of them in the rankings because he's liable to be a little bit more safe. So if you're in a matchup where you're like, I have to score a ton of points to win this week, I've got to go all out, I've got to risk it for the biscuit, then I'm going to go with like a Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. I'm going to go with a Ryan Fitzpatrick over Aaron Rodgers. If you just need to be safe though, and you own Aaron Rodgers and you're like, I've got this one, I just need to be safe, I just need points, then we're going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so Nick Foles, talked about him a little bit more on the start and sit show. Don't love the matchup. I still have him as a sit, though. Hopefully DJ Chark plays. If Chark doesn't play for some reason, I'm going to drop Foles. Ryan Fitzpatrick at 13. Olivier Vernon is out. Myles Garrett is out for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, he is not going to have much of a pass rush. The reason that the Cleveland Browns have been halfway decent on defense this year is because they've had a really good pass rush. They've got 2 guys that can get into the backfield. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not going to have to deal with that this week. He's going to have a lot of time to throw. And because of that, I think this is going to be a back and forth game. I think Mayfield's going to have to throw the ball a lot. I think Fitzpatrick's going to have to throw the ball a lot. I really think Fitzpatrick has a really high ceiling this week. So that's why I've got him so far up here, and that's why I've got Baker Mayfield a few spots ahead, because if Miami's putting up points, obviously Cleveland's going to have to put up points as well. Jeff Driscoll at 14, I have him this high because he's been able to use his legs a little bit. So we've got him up this high because he presents a little extra upside with his rushing ability. At number 15, Jameis Winston. Atlanta is allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks over the last 2 weeks. Since they came out of their bye, they have been excellent. They shut down Drew Brees a couple of weeks ago. Remember, that was a game in which Brees didn't throw a touchdown, didn't throw an interception either, and really stalled that New Orleans offense. Same thing could happen this week against Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston does not have a lot of upside for me this week. Jimmy Garoppolo coming in at number 16. He's been better as of late. Tough matchup against Green Bay, though. Ryan Tannehill at number 17, a guy that I've really liked lately. In this week, though, I am knocking him back a little bit. Carson Wentz. Do not love the Carson Wentz matchup this week. Dealing with a lot of injuries on all sides of the ball, really. And with the run game, Jordan Howard's been banged up. His wide receivers are banged up. Zach Ertz, I expect to have a huge week. We'll talk about him more on the tight end show. But with Carson Wentz, do not love Carson Wentz this week. He's been inconsistent. He hasn't shown a lot of upside. That's why I've got him so far back this week against Seattle. Jared Goff at 19. I don't want anything to do with Jared Goff this week. I'm not even considering him as a streaming option to be completely honest with you there. Sorry. felt like I was going to start coughing. Anyway, Goff not going with him this week. Baltimore hasn't given up a 300-yard passer since week 4, and only one quarterback in the last 6 games against Baltimore has more than 250 passing yards. And then Dwayne Haskins at number 20. The reason I'm tossing him in the top 20 this week is just because he gets a Detroit defense that has been known to give up some yards this year. So if they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, even though I believe this is Darius Geis season this week, I fully believe that Haskins is still going to have to throw the ball. So even if he were to throw 2-3 interceptions, which Detroit doesn't have a lot of takeaways this year, still could throw 1 or 2 touchdowns and upwards of 250, 300 yards. So he could sneak into the top 20 easily this week just based on that alone. Headliner Nation, there you go. There you have it. Top 20 quarterbacks for week 12 of the fantasy football season. Don't forget, though, again, tonight on the live show, join us if you have any other questions. Again, when looking through these rankings here, these are the guys that you should be starting in that order. So if you look at it and you say, hey, I have Dak Prescott and I have Sam Darnold, who am I going to play? It's Dak Prescott. I have Dak Prescott higher. But if you have any other questions, make sure you leave them below. Make sure you give the video a like, subscribe to the Fantasy Headliners if you haven't done so yet, and we'll see you tonight on the live show. Have a good Saturday. Talk to everyone later.